Hunters have a seemingly endless fascination with mountain rifles, and I think there are a couple of reasons for that. One is just kind of the mystique of hunting the mountains has captured our imaginations for decades. But two, the gear we use in those situations is kind of the most cutting edge and high-tech stuff that we take afield. And we see that no more well represented than in the area of the rifles. And a mountain rifle is a really kind of curious thing. I think this is part of the reason for the fascination. We're asking two really big asks that are often in contradiction with each other. On the one hand, we want these guns to be really lightweight, portable, and packable. But on the other hand, this is probably or could be the hunt of a lifetime. You might only get one shot. We want them to be utterly reliable and accurate. And when you try to go super lightweight with super accuracy and reliability, often those things don't blend well. So that when a gun company does manage to do those two things, people get pretty excited about it, and they're really willing to open up their wallets and pay a lot of money for the privilege. Now, one of the more recent trends we have seen is the advent of these folding packable rifles. And we've got a number of them this year at the gun test, starting with this SIG Cross Trax. One of the things we've really come to like about this rifle is its price. Some of the others here are up north of $3,000. This guy is a relative screaming deal, right at about $1,400. And it embodies a lot of similar features to the other guns here. There are different ways that the manufacturers try to cut weight out of the guns. You can see we have a minimalistic stock. We've got a really lightweight polymer grip, but a vertical grip that gives us good control over the trigger and helps with precision. We've got kind of a smaller cut down modular forend that we can accessorize as needed or leave naked. We tend to have much shorter barrels on these guns. This SIG has only a 16-inch tube. They tend to come chambered in lighter kicking cartridges. So this one's in a 308, and this is the big thumper of the test. The other two I have here are in 6.5 Creedmoor. But the thing about this gun in particular that caught our eye was, in addition to the value, when you run this thing offhand, it's actually quite pleasant. And it was a little bit of a surprise. When we start our accuracy testing here at the gun test, we kick off by shooting groups prone. And really, this was not a very pleasant gun to shoot that way. We sort of almost had a little bit of a bias against it because of it. But this is why we do our practical field shooting as well. As soon as we got it off the bipod and off the ground, this rifle really came into its own. Like all the rifles in the test, it was really accurate. We tried a bunch of different loads through it, and we're really happy with the performance. So for the bargain-minded mountain hunter, you're not gonna find a better deal than this. Moving up the food chain a little bit in terms of cost is this Bergara, this MgLite. Now the MG stands for magnesium. And again, I referenced the ways that rifle makers will try to save weight on their systems. And in this case, they went with this XLR chassis that's made of magnesium. So it's super lightweight compared to something typically you'd see machined out of aluminum this side. It has a generous dollop of carbon fiber there, carbon fiber in the handle, carbon fiber in the barrel. So again, the whole point of this one is to make it packable, lightweight. The hinge folds. This one wasn't our favorite hinge of the test because one, it's just a little looser than the others, and two, it doesn't lock. So we kind of dinged it a little bit on that front, but it's got a lot of other nice ergonomic touches. It's got this forend that has a built-in ARCA rail system and M-LOK, so that gives you a lot of options when it comes to figuring out ways to attach this to a tripod, run it off shooting bags, or otherwise kind of add stability to it. It's got a nice little bubble level in the back so that you can reference quickly before a shot with a glance down whether the rifle is tipped or not, and that can have a really significant impact on accuracy at distances. So it's got some smart touches in it as well. And finally, we've got this little beauty. This is the Seekins Precision Slam. And in terms of the packable mountain rifle category, this is really the most beautiful and elegant expression of the category. One of the things about this, you'll see a lot of familiar components on the other two rifles I highlighted in terms of the chassis system, in terms of even the magazines. The other two rifles, they both take typical Magpul 5-round magazines. which is nothing wrong with that. It's actually nice to have that kind of option available. The Seekins is more of a fully kind of thought out rifle system. The magazine he designed, this carbon fiber magazine, is just whisper light. It holds 3 rounds, which is, you know, kind of adequate and plenty for a hunting situation. And it just blends beautifully with the stock that he created and the hinge system. You know, this hinge on this is just super, super tight, gives a lot of confidence. It locks down the bolt when it's folded up that way. Folding it out, it clicks into place like a bank vault door. It has a nice Picatinny rail up top. And even in the rails, he's machined out little troughs in the top. Again, you know, how much weight is that saving? Grams? You know, who knows? But, you know, grams turn into ounces, turn into pounds. And again, from a standpoint of sheer elegance, you know, the length of the forehand, you know, how we were able to kind of run this thing smoothly, this gun has no peer. It is a little more expensive than the others. This guy comes in right around $4 grand, not cheap. Whereas, you know, this one's $3 grand, 1,400. So, you know, budget does have an impact. And, you know, we kind of can sort of recommend all of these at different price points for what they are. And it's also worth noting that these rifles are fabulous rifles, but they all have their little quirks. One thing on this rifle, for example, is the materials he's used in the receiver and the bolt. When this thing gets fouled and you've run quite a bit of rounds through it, you can start to feel it get a little sticky. It just doesn't run as smoothly as it does out of the gate. But all it takes is a quick wipe down with a dollop of oil in it, and it's back in action. The Bergara, you know, again, it's got a lot of good features. The magazine catch on this is sort of in a weird, unergonomic place, so that's kind of a weird little glitch. And I already mentioned sort of the looseness of the hinge, which from a practical standpoint probably doesn't make a big deal, but at $3 grand, you kind of want something maybe that's just a little bit tighter. You know, it's not a fatal flaw, but it's worth noting. You know, whereas with the Sig Cross here, which I referenced, you know, this thing runs like a dream offhand and was nice that way, but man, shooting this thing off a bench and for accuracy was not a pleasant experience. So none of these rifles are 100% perfect. But for the category, this category of these packable mountain rifles, I mean, we have never seen such an interesting and kind of worthy field as we have this year.